Hello, my name is Professor Silvester Henderson. I am professor of music at Los Medanos College, and I'm also the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated. I am so excited this morning to interview a wonderful scholar by the name of Yoknyam Dabale, Miss Yoknyam Dabale. Welcome, Miss Dabale.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
Yes. You know what? Could you please introduce yourself to the media world? Tell us where you grew up. Please share your academic journey and where have you attended college?
Okay. So my name is Yoknyam Dabale. It's a pleasure to be here, Professor Anderson. And I'm originally from Nigeria. I went to school in Sierra Leone. This is high school, Sierra Leone. And then I've actually even spent some time as a kid in Liberia, and then went back to Nigeria, completed my secondary school education. And then I came here to the United States. I went to a small junior college called Morris College in East Texas. It's now closed, actually. And then after there, I went to Texas Wesleyan. So I got my degree in pre-law, political science. And also I have certificate in church careers and service learning. So that's my first, so that's a bachelor's and an associate. And then I went to Duke University. I got my master's in divinity because at one point I wanted to be a minister. I even went through the ordination process. And then during this time, I had an epiphany that scholarship is what I really enjoy doing, as much as I also still care about the gospel and nourishing the spirit. While doing, getting my MDiv, that's when I realized I enjoy doing this, and I want to be a scholar that writes about spirituality, especially spirituality of women, specifically rural women. So Masters of Divinity, and then from there, in order to better, hone my skills as a scholar, I decided to get another master's degree. So this is Master's in Theological Studies. I went to Boston College. And then from there, I took some time to create my strategy, my research strategy. And then I applied to 2 PhD programs. And I got in both of them. But one in Europe and one here in the United States. And then I decided to go to the one that's here in the United States for economic reasons and also other reasons. And that's where I am at Fuller Theological Seminary, getting my PhD in Intercultural Studies.
Wow. You know what?
Yes, sir.
You are a woman of honor. I honor you, and I am grateful that my dear friend, Dr. Chiku, introduced me to you. You know what?
Thank you.
At Fuller Theological Seminary, Ms. Dabale, that you work as a graduate fellow or have worked as a graduate fellow. Can you explain to our digital world, what is a graduate fellow?
Actually, so ever since I started my PhD in 2018 till date, I've been doing, so a graduate fellow simply means it's a fancy word for TA. But I've been doing a lot of work as a graduate fellow. I grade papers. I help even develop course. Okay, so I'm pretty savvy with online courses. In fact, prior to starting my PhD, I taught at a small liberal arts college, and I also taught at historically Black college, that is Jackson State University in Mississippi. So I taught courses there. So I use this skill also as a graduate fellow at Fuller, which is a graduate level. So I grade papers, help students with questions. I help the professor I work for, okay, to make sure that this class it's well done, so that you don't end up with bad reviews. It also actually to care for the students so that they learn, their learning atmosphere is it's much better as opposed to having a horrific experience. And I do most of this actually with online courses. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what, Ms. Dabale, it sounds like you are doing the work of a professor.
Yes.
Because that's what a professor does.
Yes.
As a full professor for many, many, many years, everything you described is what we are supposed to do. Tell me something about the courses that you taught at Jackson State University, and tell me about how did you like your experience working as the instructor of record at this historical Black college? It doesn't matter to me whether it was small or large. It was still a university.
Yeah, I enjoy my time in Mississippi. In fact, when I went to Mississippi, when I was telling a friend I was going to Mississippi, they were like, upon all places, why Mississippi? Because Mississippi has this negative narrative that's out there, that is a place of poverty and suffering and backwardness, okay? And as a person that's coming from the continent, in many cases, people from immigrants, right? Be it African immigrants or immigrants from other places, they wouldn't necessarily go to Mississippi, okay? So I decided part of it is as a Pan-Africanist, as a lover of Black people and wanting and interested in participating, I didn't see myself simply as an immigrant who comes to extract. But I also see myself, and I continue to see myself as such, as somebody who is also to give back, besides giving back, to also participate in the process of Black struggle and Black liberation and Black empowerment and Black joy and Black sadness, etc., etc. So while I was in Mississippi, my experience there was I would say maybe 75 great, and the rest, not as great. What I mean by that is that because Mississippi definitely has a lot of struggles, but the part I did enjoy being in Mississippi, it feels as like home. So teaching at a historically Black college, and you see these seas of Black faces, there's some other minorities there, okay? But it's majority Black space. I enjoy being there, and the students really appreciated me. And in fact, while there, I introduced a course, which is African Indigenous Religions, okay? So I was able to teach that class while I was there. And I also, at the department, of philosophy and history, they also let me, I taught philosophy courses. Okay, so I taught about 3 sections of philosophy courses, and all of my classes were well attended. A lot of students signed up for it, had a great time, and I enjoyed contributing to education in that way.
What, Ms. Dabale, explain to me, in your own words, what is the philosophy of Pan-Africanism?
Well, the philosophy of Pan-Africanism is Black. It's a complete. I'm trying to figure out how to put it in few words, but I would say it's Black liberation or collectivism. If I were to use a word, I would say Pan-Africanism is Black people globally seeing themselves as family, that Christ together, that uplifts together, and I think that's how I'll put it.
So basically, it's a united family of people that have African ancestral blood in them, regardless of what city or what continent they come from.
Precisely. Yeah. So let's say when Haitians are being maltreated at the border of at the border, which happened a couple of years ago, I empathize. I also go out of my way to make sure that the world hears about it. When something is happening in Jacksonville, Florida, Black people are being maltreated, I pay attention to it and speak up and support whichever way I can. If Black people are Ishidi, who are people of African descent in Pakistan and India, okay? If they are going through struggles, I make sure that I highlight it and also support whichever way I can, and also write about it. So it's not just protesting about Black struggles. So if Black people are suffering in Fuji, I pay attention to it. I amplify it. And also it's not just even speaking about it, it's also about unity. It's also uniting to uplift each other. So it's not just necessarily protesting, but it's also writing about it, supporting each other, loving each other. So that is Pan-Africanism in action and in words. And this is nothing new.
You have described the element of what I believe Christianity is based on, is really human love. But you've defined it as human love through more directed purpose as sort of a social activist for Black people of around the world globally. Share some of your information. Share information about your work as a social activist for communities of color.
Yes.
Primarily Africans.
So, pardon me?
Primarily Africans, in a sense, in general.
Yes. Yes. So you know, as I said, right, that I see myself as an African, even though I'm Nigerian. I do highlight Nigerian struggle. So I see myself as a woman from a very small village, actually, in northern Nigeria. My group is called Yoti people, or there's another name called Bali people or Mumwe people, but I'm from a very small ethnic group. I see myself as such, okay? But as that. But then at the same time, I see myself as a Black woman. I also see myself as a person that is all of this Africa. So what I mean by that is that because I'm Pan-African, I see myself as an African, okay? Now, so the work I do, when I first came to the United States, part of it, I started giving it name when I came to the United States, okay? So when I first, the schools that I've mentioned that I've attended, in all of those institutions, I found time to volunteer. So be it to tutor a Black girl that couldn't read. That's what I started when I was in Jacksonville, Jacksonville, Texas, and also helped. The other part of it is it's not just exclusively helping people of African descent or Black people, but other thing is, if they're suffering, is you help. So the other thing I did was to help teach Mexicans, okay, that couldn't read and write in English. So I had even I was certified at some point as ESL instructor. I did that, and also visited prison. And part of it is also the first time, in fact, I was ever introduced to to the prison system was when I took a class called Service Learning, which I have a certificate in, and it ignited my passion for a Black liberation, okay, and also I was looking at it also, as you mentioned, Christianity through the lens of Christianity and Christ's passion or compassion for the least of these, okay? And also my culture. I come from a context where I learned it from my parents, where you care for people. You don't just, you see someone suffering, you don't say, oh, I'll pray for you, and that's that. You actually make an effort to help them with the situation. So attended, visited prisons, and so those are some of the things I've done. But it also, I consider myself, I started using this label of what I've been doing all these years for close to 20 years now, as everyday activist. So as an everyday activist, I don't simply join when there's a problem. I just get up and say, let's go have a placard. No, what as an everyday activist is part of who I am on a daily basis. I listen to news, I read, I speak up, be it via social media or whatever organization I'm part of. I also contribute financially. I use my energy. I attend events to support events that are Black centered. Even sometimes when I'm tired, I have cooked. Thus far, we can say I fed over 2,000 people. This is over the period, over these years, cooking African food and taking it to events. be it puff puff or jollof rice is popular. Maybe some of your audience will know of it. Making drinks, okay? Babysitting for people. When I know that they don't have babysitter, Black women, they may not have babysitters. I watch their babies for them so they can attend events, even if it's for 1 hour. Call out, racist behavior. While I'm when I'm be it as a student representative, I make sure that I voice out the concerns of marginalized people, be it African Americans, be it Latinos, okay, be it Asians. When I'm at the table, whatever opportunity I get, when I'm at the table, I don't simply speak up. I don't sit there and be happy because I'm at the table. I highlight uncomfortable things. I do also. What I mean by doing is, as I mentioned, listed all the things I've been doing all these years as an everyday activist. So it's not just being at the table; it's also participating, contributing, and ongoing. It's a way of life for me.
Well,
on top of it, as a scholar, sir, I'm also publishing. So right now, as a graduate student, I have over 10 publications. Some have been published, some have already been sent. And I intend to continue doing this to the day I take my last breath.
You know what? Your energy is wonderful, and your dedication to helping people should be applauded. You are a very unique human. You are a wonderful scholar, and I am so grateful to have met you. As you were talking, I thought to myself, could you kind of describe how does your advocacy support in for Pan-Africanism for people of color, African Americans, other cultures as well? How does that sort of integrate with the philosophy that you are learning at Fuller Theological Seminary?
Yeah, so how did that work? So I think maybe if I were to say it goes up, it integrated in my research. So when I write, right, obviously you have to speak the language of Christianity, because Fuller is a Christian institution. And not only that, actually, my dissertation has to highlight mission, Christian mission. Okay, what does this have to do with mission, what I'm talking about? I integrate all of this in my writing. Part of it is I hope I understand your question correctly. So if I'm not explaining it correctly, please interject. But I would it also the research I'm doing does that actually. So for example, what I'm looking at an African woman who from Ethiopia. Her name was Lata Petros. It's in Ge'ez. To translate it in English, it says daughter of Peter. Okay, so she was a revolutionary in the spiritual sense in Ethiopia who refused to embrace Catholicism. So she was doing Ethiopian Orthodox. She was in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and she founded all these institutions. Okay, so I'm highlighting to her, but then I'm also highlighting African Christianity, contemporary African Christianity in rural northern Nigeria. So these are a marginalized community. So you get where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm doing that. So in a way, it's also part of my advocacy to bring out these stories that we hardly hear about. Okay. So African women, in most cases, when African women are discussed in the diaspora or even on the continent, we're being discussed, or our research mostly has to do on our suffering. We don't talk about African women who have contributed. For example, in Christianity, we often just focus on oppression, because that is what I would argue that the feminist discourse within Christianity seems to want to continue to dwell on. And I'm saying that women, African women, have actually always been at the forefront of African life, way of life. And here are examples. I am not, let's make it very clear, I'm not suggesting that contemporary African women are not struggling. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that with my research is that we look at African history. And also, if we look at Africa today, do look at different nuances, right? We will see that African woman is not always just sitting on the floor and being stepped on. She's not an idiot. That's what I'm saying. She's not just somebody that just sits there and takes it.
I get it. You know what? One of the things that you're reminding me that the core of all that you're speaking about really to me is the core of all forms of religion. The core of all forms of religion should be, or philosophies, should be the principle of love and assistance. The core of every form of religion, whether it's Catholicism, whether it is you're Baptist, Methodist, whatever your religious belief is, the core of it should be, of course, your belief in a spiritual being higher than yourself. But the core should be humanity and love. Tell me, what type of research have you been able to finalize, and how has it helped improve some of your thinking processes and perhaps your learning as you were teaching in some of your earlier institutions and now as you work as a graduate fellow? How is your research in terms of helping, what has your research done to help you approach students of color in a manner in that you can assist them more effectively?
I would say so because of over the years of my experiences being in the diaspora. And so part of the research, I would say it has to do with when I look at specifically, so remember my degree is an interdisciplinary degree, but now I'm just going to look at one element of it, and that has to do with gender. Okay, so when I started doing research on feminism, I looked at it beyond the mainstream feminist discourse, especially within Christianity. So the mainstream would be highlighting white women. Okay, so I looked at womanists. I looked at Africana womanism, which is not even within the Christian context, but it's within the Afrocentric discourse. And I also look at the Circle of Concerned African Women Theologians, which was founded on the continent, and it was in the 80s. Around the same time, actually, a womanism was created in the U.S. context. I also have gone to pilgrimage. So in fact, today is the part of the celebration of the founder of the Circle of Concerned African Women Theologians, and that is Professor Mercy Amba Odioye. So today is her birthday. Happy birthday to her. And also, as part of my research, now we're talking about active research, right? I've gone to Brazil, okay, and I've experienced went on a pilgrimage, so to say. They call it pilgrimage of pain and suffering. And I was in Brazil. I've even traveled to Mexico. I've also gone to China, Korea, Mexico, which is around the corner. So with all of these experiences and also book research, I've seen that there's a lot of struggle with Black people, so more specifically Black women. So my work attempts to help Black women. Part of it is by volunteering my time. Okay. So go back to everyday advocacy, right? I volunteer my time to edit people's papers, to look at their abstracts. If people want to talk, brainstorm, I do that. And also, even when I grade papers as a graduate, as a research assistant or TA, I make sure that I direct students, especially Black students who may be struggling, to resources that will be, I'm not saying that I'm discriminating against other students, but specifically that will address their issues more specific. You understand? So those are some of the things I've been doing in terms of my research helping. So my research is not for me as a scholar. I value publishing, but at the same time, I value human relationships. Academia tends to be very robotic within the Western context. And I try to break away from that. It's tough because it's not as if I don't have a life, or I don't have things to do, or I don't have a need for sleep. Because I haven't slept sometimes just so I can help somebody. And the other thing is also I participate in organizations. So right now, 2 organizations that I've been working with for the past 2 years plus is the Circle of Concerned African Women Theologians. I provide resources. So we have the chapter, we just started the US chapter, okay? And I research regularly and see opportunities that I can share with the group and also highlight people's accomplishments. I do that, but I'm also work with another Pan-African organization. It's African Researchers Network. We just started a couple of years ago. I joined, and we do a lot of work behind administrative work and also encouraging scholars, young coming up scholars. Right now, we're even doing internships. A lot of work. So in other words, my research, getting this knowledge, for me, it's not just so that Yoknyam can publish and end up with a big time job. It will be good. But at the same time, I'm doing it because I believe I'm giving a lot of free labor, everyday activism, because I believe I'm part of a big project. And that is the Pan-African project, wherever I am, whether as a scholar of religion, to help contribute.
Can you thank you for that? You know what? I really admire the fact that I can tell that you're very passionate about this, and that you've described what the 2 components of the institution. One is that you help students with their contextual and academic concerns, but you also support the students' service needs. Mm-hmm. Student service needs, directing them properly where to go to deal with particular issues and concerns they have. Tell me, what are some of the challenges that you feel that you faced as African Pan-African, as a Pan-Africanist woman of color in higher education? What are some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, there's quite a few challenges. So one is, remember when I mentioned, so because I'm Black, in America, I know that there's a subset of Africans who say that, in Africa, we don't deal with race. When we come to the United States, that's when we start having to talk about race, which is actually, I disagree with that. Hopefully, I'll publish on that in the near future. But I see myself, I'm a Black woman. I'm actually a very dark-skinned woman, very chocolate. So while here in the United States, I knew of race and how race works, even on the continent. And then while here in the United States, what I've noticed, to be more specific to your question, what I've noticed is that students, even students of color or Black students, you could be very helpful to them. To some extent, they don't value your time as they would compared to your counterparts who are white, for example. They see it as, sometimes they take it for granted about that. So your authority is being questioned because of the color of your skin, okay? The other thing is, some of the challenges, in fact, comes from, as a scholar, I've experienced it from professors who have questioned my skills because they don't think that I can do it because I'm Black. In fact, I'm not going to tell you which school because I've attended quite a few schools here, right, in the United States.
Okay.
When I was getting my master's, I've written a paper. An advisor reported me to the dean without telling me, without asking me about this paper. She believed that I did not write that paper. Rage. I was, what? She believed I did not write that paper. She sent me straight to the dean. So what I was able to do is I was able to galvanize scholars who knew my work, and on top of it, just to defend myself, because what you're doing is you're accusing me of plagiarism. And I also took my computer to computer lab. They were, thankfully, I had a MacBook. They were able to trace my paper, because you can do that. They were able to trace how I started writing my paper, and it was all there. Okay. And the other part of it is when I was reported to the dean, I had to sit there and listen to this dean's rubbish, claiming that, asking me about my work and how do I do things, how do I organize myself. And I told the dean, and the dean goes, oh, you're a high achiever now, and students like you are the kind that will plagiarize. What? Nonetheless, I have scholars and myself, and even the computer lab, they prove that I've done the work, and that's that. I could have taken things further by, reporting this institution, but I didn't, because of the love of God, and also that I ended up having a substitute advisor who has been a great mentor to me. So the other challenges are simply, if you're Black, there's certain, some of us Black people, I'm not saying that Black people have some sort of special place in terms of suffering in this world, but to some extent I could say that there's certain personal struggles that you have, and then if you report it, or you say, oh, I need more time for X, Y, and Z, it will be seen because of the stigma on Blackness, that all Black students are not being taking things serious. So there's some of the struggles I have, actually, they're even more internal, because I refuse to share them because I didn't want to be castigated or didn't want to be seen as unserious. I've experienced death in my family. People didn't know about it, and I interact with people. I've also experienced marginalization, unfortunately, in academia from other women.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sadly.
Well, Ms. Dabale, what you've talked about is just not a struggle just for you, but it's a struggle for many women. I consider myself to be a very supportive lifetime academic. I have supported thousands, hundreds of thousands of students of color over my 40 plus academic career in higher education, more than I can even describe. I've seen so many, not only women, but men, but especially women, be treated in a manner that is not effective. And one of the things I've realized is that ignorance will live with you forever. And so sometimes I applaud your efforts to move forward. Sometimes reporting ignorance is good, but sometimes simply acknowledging ignorance and sort of taking it as trash and putting it in the garbage can and moving on is more effective, because you spend so much energy and so much time trying to change a mindset that will not change. Legislation and policies cannot take away from people racist behaviors. Racism is embedded in your heart. It's not about what the policy says. The policies in many institutions of learning have all of these wordings that says, we support equality, we support equity. I mean, that's just what people say.
Exactly.
But what people do is what describes what's in their heart. So you know what? I just got two or three more questions.
Yeah.
Please tell me what are some of the things that how have you improved yourself as a protected class? How have you improved yourself not only as a Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanist, and as a Black woman, a Nigerian woman, how have you protected yourself and your intellectual capacity in order to be able to stay so positive and to move forward? To me, that sounds like Christianity and the love of God that really is the core of your heart. But I would like you to expound on that for me, please.
Yeah, so besides my spirituality, I also I don't see myself as an individual. Okay, so what this means is that I collaborate with other people. I even watching YouTube, for example, I listen to other scholars, I listen to other people, human beings, other Black people. I listen to their process. What I mean by process is, for example, let's say Beyonce. Beyonce is popular, right? When people are focusing on Beyonce's dance and music videos, I read on Beyonce's process. I read on how Beyonce got where she got to. So it inspires me. I read about, be it her, practice techniques. So she doesn't just get up in the morning and go and dance. She practiced for a very long period of time. Or when I listen to, I read, so the other part of it is I read a lot. It helps me stay sane. I read about other people's life experiences, and even tragic experiences. So be it Malcolm X, or be it Nina Simone, be it whoever, etc., be it Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X is in my head. So, or be it Martin Luther King Jr., or be it Lata Petros, who I'm studying. Reading helps me to stay focused. Also, listening to music. I listen to a lot of old music, be it jazz or African classical music known as Afrobeats these days, or Fela, or negligible to whoever within the black space, or black catalog of scholars, of artists. So I listen to music, I read, I exercise a lot. I'm actually an avid. I'm pretty I'm pretty fit. I exercise a lot. I started exercising when I was 15 years old, because in fact I think this might be helpful for some people, because these days I hear a lot about self-care. So I lived in a war zone when I was in Sierra Leone, and very traumatic. In fact, I didn't leave Sierra Leone by plane. I left Sierra Leone by escaping and ended up in another country called Guinea, Conakry. And then from there, that's when I was able to escape and via plane and got to Nigeria. There's more detail to that, but nonetheless, I lived in a war zone. I've been shot at. I've experienced starvation in Sierra Leone, except, So when I went back to Nigeria, I couldn't even eat. So my parents had to give me, provide care, including medication, so I'm able to eat, because starvation was so prolonged that I didn't have taste for food. Nonetheless, I went through that. But the other part of it is what I've decided. I discovered about working out, exercise. So I started jogging. Okay. I started jogging every time I'm stressed out. I feel stressed, I go and jog. So I've been doing that all these years. So we're talking about close to 30 years. I exercise regularly. I eat healthy. that helps me to also stay focused, as opposed to dwelling on this is not to suggest I don't attend to my problems. I do, but instead of having other things that might affect my body negatively, I use exercise as medicine to my soul and to my body. I also speak to other people. I don't just sit down in isolation. The other thing is, so when I have I call somebody, I call a family member, and just talk and discuss things. They talk to me. I'm a talker, but I also, I try my best to not allow struggles to weigh me down. I believe that, again, that I'm not an individual, that I'm in this world. I have plenty of people. I have also a cloud of witnesses. I have ancestors who inspire me. Be it Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was one of the greatest human beings, black man, to walk the surface of this earth. He experienced a lot of adversity. He spoke several languages. He was a lawyer. He was a singer. He was an artist, musician, philosopher. But even he went through so much. So who am I? So because of that, the cloud of witnesses, as we speak within the Christian context, they inspire me to stay sane. And people around me, I look at other people's life, and also I look at the struggles in the world. So be it men and women getting killed in Darfur, or they're getting killed in Palestine, or they're getting killed in Israel, or they're getting killed in Chile, okay, or in Ethiopia. When I see those pains, I say to myself, I'm not special. And the fact that I'm even here and alive and I'm eating, I should be grateful and then keep moving forward.
Miss Dabale, you inspire me. You've said a lot. I'm going to ask you my final question. Please discuss your goals, future projects, and innovations, and share any final thoughts you would like to with our digital community.
Okay, thank you. And well, my project right now is I'm working on my dissertation, trying to complete it. And so next year by this time, inshallah, as Muslims would say, God's willing, in Allah yada, or as we say in Hausa, I will be, I'll have my PhD. And so that's what I'm working on at the moment. And I'm also locally, supporting NGOs, especially those that are catered to people of color, Black folks specifically. Like last weekend, I went to the NAACP, had their local NAACP, they had their gala, and I went there and supported that. And I'll also continue to be organizing locally. There's a Kwanzaa event coming up. I hope to participate in organizing that, and also networking, network. So as Kwame Ture said that, he says, organize. So I'll be doing that. That's ongoing as an everyday activist. And my also vision is hope to start a group for young Black girls, as a support group, so that these young Black girls in America don't feel that they are alone, okay? And so a support system, a support, group.
Well, you know what? I want to thank you. I am the father of 3 daughters, of which all of my children are very, very successful. It is such a joy for me, as just not a male, but as a person of color, to entertain you on this digital broadcast. You have inspired. I kept thinking when you were talking, I thought of Mother Teresa from the Roman Catholic world. And I thought to myself, if every aspect of life could have someone who is an advocate as yourself, life would be improved. And many of our issues would erase themselves. I really appreciate your heart. I appreciate your dedication. I am wishing you nothing but blessings in all that you endeavor to do. Your PhD will expand your learning, but your heart came from the core of your family, because the family is who gives you, along with your high belief in God and your high belief in humanity and your high belief in helping people. That is the core of everything I've heard. So on behalf of Professor for Life Incorporated, I want to congratulate you for you being you. And I want to thank you for taking the time to interview on this broadcast. You have a positive afternoon and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
All right then. Bye-bye now.